Pastor my everyone. Welcome to my December wrap-up. This is well, it's not really that late, is it? But I have been meaning for some time to get the explanation of my 2016 reading challenge. You've already probably seen, well, you might have already seen some tweets about this, where basically I'm going to try to read lots and lots of books by people who are not white male authors, particularly straight white male authors. But I really need to do a proper video to explain that and the logic behind it. So yeah, this is why I feel this is a bit delayed. I was meaning to do that a couple of weeks ago, still not got around to it. Anyway, to get on with what we're really here for today, which is the wrap-up, the last books of 2015, then there are 7 of them. So, off we go. The first book for December was The Wise Man's Fear, which is the second one in Patrick Rothfuss's trilogy about Kvothe. I read The Name of the Wind back in September. You can find that in my September, in the quarter 3 wrap-up. Yeah, it's quite a good book. I think it follows on well. I can see the criticisms about how maybe he spends a bit too much time with Falarin. I think the main problem that I have, though, is that not a single page goes past without Kvothe going on about, oh, but I'm part of the Ademaru and they are wonderful and perfect, and oh, I just start hating him. And there's nearly 1,000 pages of that in this book, and just getting on my nerves a bit there. But that's the character's fault, not the writing. So, annoying characters, sometimes you can cope with them, sometimes you can't. Well, now that I've got 2/3 of the way through the trilogy, I might as well finish it when the last one comes out. My favourite characters are still Bast, and I couldn't believe I forgot about Elladan until I started this one. He's amazing too. These guys, they're the best. Kvothe is kind of annoying. I think that was 4 stars. Then I picked up a really quite short book, which is from Graham Greene. It's The Third Man and The Fallen Idol, which are both short stories. The Third Man was, of course, a film as well. I used to read quite a bit of Greene. After I started, the first of his books that I read was The Power and the Glory, and we did it in school for the IB, and I quite liked it, and was thinking then I need to diversify my reading, and I like this guy, I will get some more of him. And over the years, I think I read about 7 of his books. But I started to think, does he ever write about anything other than Catholicness and Catholic guilt and being Catholic? And it just started to really annoy me. I got halfway through The Heart of the Matter. Suddenly it turns out turns out Scobie's Catholic. Kind of gave up in frustration. And the one I just read previous to that had been The End of the Affair, so it was kind of a double hit. Yeah, and then of course, after a while, I was thinking about this, and I sort of looked into it and found out that I'd managed by accident to pick up all of his very Catholic novels, and the rest of his stuff is a bit more toned down. So I thought, well, I should probably get back into this at some point. I did quite like him before I got annoyed by that. And then when I was reading The Spring of Caspar Meyer, in the author notes at the back, Ben Ferguson was saying, oh, I really like Graham Greene, and I've been, reading all of his books, and I've been putting off on reading The Third Man until I'd finished writing The Spring of Caspar Meyer. And I thought, well, this sounds like an excellent tip. So that's why I picked up this. And yeah, it is good. Having not seen the film, I had no idea what was going to happen in the story. Yes, I did like this. I'm definitely going to have to get back into them, although, of course, no green during 2016. Right, the next one might require a bit more explanation as well. It is a non-fiction book about the Hitler Youth, which I started at the beginning of 2014, and read my way through most of it, but it is pretty heavy going and is not amazingly exciting. Well, I mean, it is a bit grim. So I kind of gave up, but I thought I really do need to finish this. It's been 2 years, I need to finish this. So I did. There was only about 100 pages, maybe 50 pages left, something really ridiculously small. It was it's a pretty good introduction to the topic. It's published by Harvard University Press, so you feel like it ought to be a reliable survey of the topic. I really started reading it because it's research for my novel, really, background research rather than direct research. So yeah, that's why I was reading that and finishing it, because I thought, can't keep going with this. Moved on swiftly to The Prince's Boy by Paul Bailey, which is a short novel about gay Romanians in Paris at the beginning of the 20th century. Which sounds like it ought to be something I would really like. But they just didn't seem to feel things that much. I don't know. I felt like it could have been more. I think it would have been better as a full-length novel, not a short one. Because it needed more. It needed more exposition. It needed more of a sense that they did genuinely love each other and that kind of thing. Which I didn't really pick out of this, so I wasn't actually as impressed as I thought I would be. And then because I was starting to run out of books, and I could have, but I decided that I wasn't going to start reading some of the books that I had bought for my 2016 challenge. I had to rush out and emergency buy some more books. The horror! I'm sure you can understand how difficult that was. And the first thing that I got was finally I got a hold of the Gospel of Lurkey. They suddenly came back into stock mysteriously, and actually, this is one of the copies that she signed while she was over. It's great. Yeah, I did enjoy this. I do like Loki as a character. Her take on him is hilarious, and I love him. So I suppose I am going to have to get Rune Lights at some point. But yeah, do enjoy this. I would recommend this. It's good fun. The other thing that I bought was Alice Munro, The Lives of Girls and Women, which proudly proclaims to be a novel. And I was, so far-ish through it and thinking, I'm not sure that I really like this. And then I realised that it's more. Don't think of it as a novel. Think of it as a collection of short stories about the same character set into chronological order. Because each of the chapters is kind of sort of self-contained, and it doesn't feel like there's an overarching arc. I didn't feel there was an overarching arc. So, yeah, I wasn't that wild about this either, unfortunately. But, thinking of it as short stories made it more enjoyable. I was really thinking I was going to abandon it up until I had that revelation. And then, since I was desperately running out of time to go to the bookshop to buy more books, I borrowed one off my dad, and that was Paradox, The 9 Greatest Enigmas in Science by Jim Al-Khalili, which discusses things that like Schrodinger's cats and that kind of thing, and how they are not actually a paradox, most of them. So yeah, it does get quite into physics and quantum physics and that kind of thing, and I did give up reading about studying physics nearly 10 years ago, so it was slightly over my head, but at the same time it is written to be accessible to the general public, so it wasn't too bad. Yeah, if you are interested in physics things, you should definitely pick up a copy of this. It is really good. Not quite my thing, obviously, given that anyway. Yeah, so that's it for December. I did not actually get to read one of the books which I knew I was getting for Christmas, because it turned out to be really, really thick. And I was I was going to read it in a week, so I did not. So there's that for. Well, I might read some bits of it this year, cheating slightly. Yes, that is it, I suppose. Do let me know if you've got any thoughts on any of these books. And otherwise, I will see you soon for the exciting 2016.